Wow. So I want to welcome everyone here today on my first YouTube video. First live, first video, first anything YouTube actually. So my name is Emmanuel and I'm a licensed financial professional. And on this platform, there's something that is very important, and that is education. And not just any type of education, but financial education. Why is financial education important? Because it's very important to cure miseducation first. I sometimes wonder which one is worse, financial miseducation or just plain financial ignorance. Well, doesn't matter here. The goal is to make sure that we all get educated and we are able to have a better financial future. So it's my first video, first YouTube channel, and it's quite a baptism. So the ahs and the hums, yeah. So we'll just all experience it together. But most importantly, we are able to have a nice time. And if you're not watching live, um, you're also welcome. And please do well to subscribe and turn on the notification button so that you can next time come around and just get notifications whenever we release a new video or a new live. So today we're going to talk about how to budget. That's going to be our first topic in our series of financial education. You think about budgeting, I'm sure everyone has heard what the word budgeting is. And my understanding of budgeting, a few years ago was that, hey, this is so cliche. You're telling me about wealth and you're talking about budgeting. I mean, do I even have money to budget in the first place? That used to be my understanding of the word budgeting. That was my bias. Sometimes we see simple solutions and we tend to gloss over these simple solutions because, hey, we expect that the path to wealth would be more complicated, the path to wealth would be more grandiose. So when we hear simple words like save, budget, invest, we just have this tendency to gloss over them. But I still so strongly believe now that I have better education, I so strongly believe that budgeting is one big step towards reaching your financial goal. And as we go along in today's session, um, I hope that by the end of, I don't know how long this is going to go, maybe an hour or thereabouts, but I hope that by the end of this session, we have this understanding that, hey, you cannot get ahead if you have not taken it, paid attention to really doing well to be a master at budgeting. So let's define what budgeting is. I'm sure someone would ask that question. Okay, in the context of what we are talking about, in the context of wealth creation, in the context of controlling your finances, what is budgeting? And it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. And when you think about the definition of budgeting, is the process of creating a plan to spend money. So it means that money gets to you and you create a plan before you even spend a dime or a dollar out of that money. You see, they say money has legs. And I really strongly believe that money has legs. You know, in the USA, every year, maybe January or February, at the beginning of the year, a lot of people would file what is known as tax returns. So it means that if you've overpaid taxes to the government in the previous year, you have this opportunity to file your returns and get some money back. If you have kids, if you have some, say, real estate, you bought an electric car, you had a lot of work expenses, you have the chance to get a lot of money back. Usually, people would get 5,000, people would get 3,000, people would get 10,000, people would get 12,000. And the expectation of a lot of people when it comes to, hey, what they will do with the taxes they get back, it's usually, hey, I would have an opportunity at last to just do that extra thing I couldn't do with my regular salary. And they receive their tax returns, and money in its characteristic self just grows legs and it just disappears. And you're wondering, hey, where did the money go? Right? So, yes, money has legs. If you don't tell it what to do, it has a mind of its own and it will just do whatever it wants to do. So that's where the budget comes in. Now we are trying to train money to be subject to our expectations. Now money is not just gonna decide for us, we decide for money. Oh, so why do we have to decide for money? Why do we have to plan for money that we are yet to receive and that we are going to spend, maybe in the next month or in the next, a lot of organizations in the US would pay every 2 weeks, some would pay every month. So you're thinking, hey, what would I spend in the next month or in the next 2 weeks? I think I should allocate income towards expenses, savings, and every other thing that I think I want to use money for. And that is where you begin to take control of your money. And I can assure you that once you begin to master money in a way that you take control of how you spend money, then there are a couple of things that would happen. Now you are the boss, okay? Now money does not have long legs any longer because now you've tied it up to the boundaries that you want it to stay within. And you can save, you can repay debt, and as we go along, you will discover how budgeting helps you to stay living within your means. So now one would ask, hey, great, you've said all these beautiful things. So, what's the real purpose of budgeting? Like I said earlier, financial control. If you are going to take control of your finances, look, just think of any company in the world, any business in the world. Hey, this business, they have a revenue of $500 million or $1 billion in a year, and they just don't plan for their money. I mean, you would say whoever is the CEO is insane, whoever is the accountant is insane. How can't you have a budget? Think about a nation, and a nation wakes up in the next financial year and says, you know what? I think we have an idea of how much this nation is probably going to earn. So let's just wing it as we go. When it's come, we try to solve what we can solve. I mean, no nation is going to thrive that way. So if great nations budget, if small nations budget, if great organizations budget, if small companies budget, hey, now the question will be, why is it that most people never get to budget before spending money? Oh, yeah, it's making sense, right? Yes, it's making sense now because every entity that has a purpose, a vision, a mission, before they spend money, they budget. And then they are able to control what goes out of what comes in. So, that financial control is why, as individuals, we need to really start paying attention to budgeting. You'll just be surprised, you'll be shocked how much you can change your finances and change your life just taking that control over your finances. Why? Because it's going to prevent overspending. You know what's going to come in, and you know you have decided that out of what comes in, this is what is going to go to the bills. This is what is going to go to my savings. This is what is going to go to all of those. You've stacked up credit cards because you've never learned to plan your finances. And now you have to repay all of these debts. Now, within budgeting, you can begin to have a fuller sense of all your expenditure, all your debts, and what you can save. Now, that is control right there. And because you have control, you are able to align your spending with your financial goals. In the sense of budgeting, you will have goals. And those goals could be, hey, I want to save for a house. And in saving for my house, I need $50,000 for down payment. Then you are able to say and calculate that, okay, if I save $2,000 every month, if I save $10,000 every month, this is how long I have to save to get to my goal. And now, because you have a goal and because you have a system where you put your goal into context, the context of what and how much you earn, then you just see that you have definite possibility of achieving those goals. So now, because you have goals for what you want your money to do, then you are able to make informed decisions about allocating money. Look, when you don't make informed decisions, it means anything that comes your way will take your money away. Oh, okay, that looks good. Okay, anything that comes your way takes your money away. All right, that's corny. But let's move on. So, oh well, another thing that budgeting will help you do is it's going to help you manage your debts successfully. You know, in the United States, a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. Actually, according to recent data, almost 67% of people in the United States live paycheck to paycheck. Do you know what it means to live paycheck to paycheck? You don't have anything to save. You don't have breathing space. You cannot miss a paycheck. You would land in trouble. So, because you cannot miss a paycheck, it means that you'll be subject to that evil boss who wants to, you know, frustrate you, who wants to suffocate the life out of you. Yeah, that's the consequence of living paycheck to paycheck. But guess what makes a lot of people live paycheck to paycheck? That there are so many opportunities, especially in a country where, hey, all you just need is a great credit score. It's so easy to build a score based on how much you are able to borrow and pay back. Now you have a great score and you covet a nice car. So what do? You don't have money for the car, but you buy it anyway. You buy it on a loan. Now you want to go to college. You study the most irrelevant course that anyone can study in college, and this course, at the end of 4 years, you spent like $150,000 studying. Okay, I don't want to bring down any course. I would have said gender studies, but hey, please. Every course is important. Okay. Now, you study gender studies and you have a debt of $150,000, and there's nowhere for you to work with your gender studies degree. Car loans, student loans, credit cards. You know, I came into the US the first time ever in 2016, and right in the plane, I traveled on American Airlines, and right there in the plane, I had never seen something like that before in my life. We were offered credit cards. Like, seriously, I was flying from Germany at the time. We're offered credit cards. Juicy, juicy offers. If you get our credit card, we are gonna give you free miles. You are gonna give you this bonus here, bonus there. And there's this credit card culture in the United States, and this culture has helped put people in captivity of having to pay every month. They get a paycheck today. They have to pay all of these loans. They have to take money that they can put into their future and pay off all of these debts. Now, the effect of that is that they live paycheck to paycheck. So, when there's a system of budgeting that helps you capture all your debts, then you can begin to actually work towards repaying those debts. In fact, I remember the first time, you know, I began to pay attention to finances, and I read a book. And in this book, the author was really, really harsh against people that had any kind of debts. In fact, he said something. He said, a borrower is slave to the lender. And he took that from the scriptures. And I was like, whoa. So, in the course of reading the book, the author decides to challenge every one of his readers and said, if you really want to get out of that, the first thing you will do is you destroy every one of your credit cards and you get on a plan to pay it back. So, well, I had some debts, and because that's how the culture of debt sucks you in. It's easy to get sucked in. Good luck finding someone who doesn't have one kind of debt or the other in the United States. So what did I do? I took my cards. I had three at the time, and all of them had balances on them. So balances means all of them needed to be paid off one way or the other. And I took three of them and I shredded every three of them. Then I then began to work out a plan to pay it off. This is where budgeting comes and is a very powerful tool to help you pay off all of those debts. So, to recap, to gain financial control of your finances. Hey, to achieve all your financial goals for saving, for retirement, for even a vacation, you know, for making informed decisions about how you want money to be allocated, then you want to think about having a great budget. And as you begin to um, put something down and, allocate this dollar to this expense and this bill to this other dollar, you discover that you are able to plan for the future. You are able to save. You are able to grow money for the future. In fact, what would be when you think about the benefits of, budgeting, I would say we have four major categories as to why everybody should actually budget, should actually have a budget for their money, for their income. And the first thing I will emphasize is that you discover that now you're able to save money. You're able to save money. You are able to every month decide that, hey, this is my rent. This is my light bill. This is my electric bill. This is my car loan. This is for my kids' education. This is for feeding. This is for, just the lessons that I take, maybe your piano lesson. This is for clothes. I mean, hey, you're still going to buy clothes, right? And this is for saving because you have been able to analyze what comes in and control what goes out. You'd have more for saving and you are able to allocate money for saving. Now, you go through a year just budgeting, just working hard and controlling your finances. You look back and you see, whoa, I've begun to save so much money for myself, you know, and because you have learned how to budget, now it reduces stress in your life. Yeah, I promise you. Oh, how does budgeting, that simple act of budgeting, reduce stress in your life? It's so simple. Now you have been able to track all your expenses, right? You have been able to allocate the most important bills and you have been able to drop the unimportant ones. Now you don't have any stress going on for you any longer because, hey, what you did not plan for at the beginning of the month, you don't even think about it. So, if you want to reduce financial stress, that racking your brain of, oh, am I sure that I'll be able to survive this next month? Well, you want to try the strategy of having a budget, you know, and it gives you financial awareness, and eventually you are building wealth for yourself. That's the bottom line. Look, this channel is all about wealth creation. You know, in African communities, in black communities, it's high time we began to speak about just controlling wealth, just creating wealth, wealth for the future, and not just wealth for us, but even transgenerational wealth. Look, when we think about wealth as just, hey, me, I'm wealthy, and that's just about it, that's not the right mentality to wealth. Check the Rockefellers, check the Rothschild, check some of this great, great, great families in the United States whom have been able to just create wealth over 200 years ago, and they just keep transferring wealth from generation to generation to generation to generation. And this type of wealth transfer took somebody sitting down and making a generational plan. Hey, let me make one cliche quote, right? We are all about bringing cliches into perspective and actually just beyond the fact that, hey, we hear this all the time, just begin to assimilate some of these things and apply it to life. And one of such is that if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So, planning to fail is just you are already setting your future, not just your future, the future of your kids, the future of your grandkids, you are setting it ablaze. And that's why it starts. The very first place that it starts is it starts with a budget. So, in this journey towards creating wealth, you cannot underestimate budgeting. I hear some people say, budgeting. Budget what exactly? What am I even trying to budget? I don't even have money to budget. I mean, is it not somebody that makes money enough to pay the bills that budgets? Hey, you make money. The question is, do you make money? Yes or no? Now, if that answer is ever yes, no matter how little it is, why not sit down and decide what happens to the money? In fact, okay, even if the money is not enough, know how much short you are. And the way you know how much short you are is by budgeting. Okay, my expense is $500, but my income is $100. Well, in budgeting, you have a better perspective of the difference between your income and your expenses. And you can then even begin to cut down the least important expenses. Or you can then begin to have an idea of how much work you need to do to balance income and expenditure. It's so simple. So whether you think you are making enough, whether you think you're making too much, it's very, very important to have a systematic way of planning for your finances. I've heard people say no wealthy person became wealthy by budgeting. It's just silly. It's just silly. It's a silly thing to say. Look, no wealthy person became wealthy by not having a plan. I mean, yeah, you can win the lottery, you can suddenly come upon money, but if you don't know how to handle money, the way you suddenly came upon the money, the same way the money is gonna disappear. So again, let's not get caught up into just misinformed statements and quotes and statements and quotes that have no basis. And it's a thing that you budget. And I hope that I'm able to convince somebody that the road to wealth is budgeting. So, there are types of budgeting, right? There are several ways you can begin to think of budgeting. And these ways are really, really simple. It's simpler than you think. Just planning your finances, just deciding to take control of your finances is pretty simpler than you think. Now, um, there are four ways that I'm going to highlight that you can begin to use. So, techniques that you can begin to use to plan your finances. The first one is what I'll call the zero based budget. And how does the zero based budget work? you allocate every single dollar to a spending category. So if you receive $3,000 a month, it means that every single dollar of the $3,000 a month is allocated to a certain spending category. And we'll talk about spending categories, but that's the zero based budget technique. Now we have the 50-30-20 budget technique where you work on a more broader scale, right? And the way it works is just that you allocate a chunk of your finances, 50% of your income, to essentials. What are essentials? Essentials will fall under the category of, say, rent, your bills, those things that ensure that you have a comfortable life. Not things that you want, not those nice things that, hey, I think I want a vacation. No, 50% of income to essentials. I will tell you why this kind of 50-30-20 budgeting is important. But 30% will then go to wants. So we call that discretionary spending. In discretionary spending, well, it's not necessary for your survival, but hey, you still want to live a good life. So you allocate 30% on a broader scale of your income to wants, then 20% to savings and debt repayments. Now, why is this 50-30-20? Why is it a really, really nice technique of budgeting? Now, if you understand your income, you would understand situations in which you should put yourself. And I will explain that in a minute. So, someone who receives $2,000 a month and knows that of that $2,000, 50% goes to essentials, and essentials would include rent and water bills and electric bills and just the very, very important things that you need to just exist, to give yourself and your family shelter and to live like a basic, decent life. Um, then it will help you understand that, hey, I cannot afford a rent of 1,500. So, if despite the fact that you receive $2,000, because you have learned to budget your money, you understand right from day one. Okay, I love this nice apartment. I love this nice townhome, but my income is $2,000. Out of the $2,000, I can only allocate 50% to essentials. This rent is clearly above 50%. Okay, I would find a cheaper house. So it gives you perspective of how you should manage your living. Just okay, this is people would usually say, cut your coat according to your size. Now, another 30%, like I said earlier, would go to wants. And you can think of, okay, we want to have at least one vacation a year. We want to spend money on nice clothes. We want to live a good life. So, hey, because we are budgeting, because we are trying to build wealth, doesn't mean that we are going to live our lives like paupers, right? So, hey, it's something that you want to plan for. You want to plan for the good life. You want to buy a car. So if you're buying a car or saving for a car, then you know that this falls under discretionary spending and you live within the means of what your budget allows. So that's why it's a very nice technique of growing money. And the remaining 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. So you have 20% going to savings and debt repayment. Now, within this kind of budget, you are sure that you would have a plan for the future. I think it's a favorite of mine. This 50/30/20 budget. But guess what? We can even combine some of these types of budgeting techniques, right? You don't have it doesn't have to be just one style. For example, I see the possibility of combining the zero based budget and the 50/30/20 budget. So it means that first you think of your essentials and you say, hey, it must be below 50%. You think of your wants, you say, hey, it must be below 30% of your income. Then you say, my savings must be 20% of my income. Then, based on that guideline, you then do a zero based budget where you then allocate every dollar based on the 50/30/20 guideline. Now, so that's an awesome way of taking charge of your finances. And another method is the envelope system. I think this for the people that are pretty old school, I don't know if um, anyone has had parents who would just divide money into envelopes. So envelope A is for the rent, envelope B is for clothes, envelope C is for food, envelope D is for whatever it is. And now you begin to spend from the envelopes. If the envelope gets exhausted, one envelope that represents a category gets exhausted, then hey, there's no more spending in that category for the month any longer. Oh, dad, I want to buy a new shoe. This shoe, it just got released. Oh, wow. All my class. Well, the envelope for junior, the envelope for, you know, the shoe category is exhausted. So you got to wait for next month to come by before you can before we can consider it, before we can put it into the budget. So that's a controlled way of spending. But I mean, in an age where people don't spend cash as in the past, I would doubt if this would be effective. But we could also go and adapt the envelope system to the digital age that we are in, right? Where you would have banks, different bank accounts, and you can have Capital One. Okay, Capital One, I'm going to keep money for rent in Capital One. So as your income comes from your employer or from your business, hey, immediately Capital One gets the essentials, right? Then Capital Two, Capital Two Bank gets maybe for the clothes, and Capital Three for the feeding of the family, Capital Four for whatever. And you have different bank accounts and different savings accounts for different categories of spending. That way is more feasible than the traditional envelope system. But guess what? You can combine, you can mix these systems together, and these systems can begin to, you can adapt them for your own particular style, or it just depends on how much detail you want to put into your spending. Someone who wants to be broad would prefer the 50/30/20 type of budgeting. But someone who wants to control every dollar will prefer the zero based budgets. So, um, yes, those are four techniques of budgeting. And as we go on, you'd see that it's pretty easy. It's not complicated. It's not something that you cannot do. You don't have to spend any time, trying to budget. Maybe sometimes all you just need is a notebook. All you need is a notebook. Look, I'm going to share right now. I'm going to share um, two of the ways that we can budget, right? Two of the techniques that we talked about. And this is the 50/30/20 technique. And in this 50/30/20 technique, like I said earlier, you have your essential needs and you are taking care of the essential needs and you are planning your future such that your essential needs don't exceed 50%. And you are taking care of discretionary wants, right? And you are making sure that, those things that you just used to spoil yourself, as we say, those kind of spending is controlled. And when you stay within the budgets, you don't even feel guilt any longer because hey, it's within budget. Once you are above budget, you just shut the tap. Simple. And in fact, the money is not there any longer to spend because you have got to the limit of the budget. And savings, that's the juicy part of the budgeting thing, right? Where you can begin to move money to work for your future. You can begin to move money into index funds. You can begin to move money into annuities. You can begin to move money into high yield savings account. You can begin to take steps, make moves, important money moves that you were not able to make before you started budgeting. So that's the way it works in the 50/30/20 budgets technique. Now, the zero based budget technique, as we see on the right here, is pretty simple, right? You have your paycheck one, paycheck two. You add all the paychecks together in maybe in a month or in 2 weeks, depending on how you want to categorize your spending. I would usually say that you should you should if you earn money every 2 weeks, most of your rents or your mortgages, they would usually be on a per month basis, right? Most of the bills, the electric bills, they'll usually be on a per month basis. Most of um, the expenses that you encounter would usually be on a per month basis. So it would make sense to add paychecks that would come in the month and plan for the entire month itself. Then, hey, for example, you could have these are just examples, right? It's not any way close to exhaustive. You can have, money that goes to church, that goes to charity, that goes to emergency funds. Emergency funds is part of savings, right? Then you have housing, so your mortgage is this amount, your water bills this amount, and you have everything planned. You'll see how simple it gets just starting up. Really, really simple. And it's it's a game changer. It's a game changer. I can assure you it's a game changer. So, how do you create a budget? How do you create a budget? I like practicality. How do you create a budget? It's very simple. So number one, let me share it here. Let me share it here. I'll share it on the screen. So just walk through this with me. So number one, you estimate your income. how much do I earn from my businesses? How much do I earn from my job? How much do I earn from my side hustle, as we call it? How much do I earn from all of these things that I do? Estimate your income. List everything for the month or for the year, however, whatever timeline you want to track. Now, the next thing you want to do after that is you want to track your expenses. So you have your light bills, you have your rent, you have your car loans, you have your student loans. Track all your expenses. You'll be shocked how a lot of the time you have more expenses than income. Then, when you see that you have more expenses than income, it's at that point that you then begin to categorize your your spending. Hey, what is need? What is a want? How do you differentiate what's important versus what is not important? These are decisions you make at the table of budgeting. And that's how you can begin to cut things off. Hey, you, I don't think I care about you. You, right now, you're great to have, but right now, you don't fit into to the agenda. A lot of people have so many subscriptions: Netflix, Hulu. They even started one subscription 3 years ago. They started as a free trial, and the money is coming out of their account every month, and they don't even know. Or sometimes they even know, and they're like, okay, it's $7, it's $10 here and there. And by the time you calculate for the whole month or for the whole year, it becomes really significant. So when you categorize all the spending between needs and wants, you then be able to decide which ones can you drop off, so that now your income begins to match your expenses, and beyond that, you are able to even save for the future. And also, you want to categorize your spending to fixed versus variable. There are some kind of spending that, hey, you know what's going to be every month, like your rent. For the most part, your rent is not variable, it's not going to change. And you want to also categorize the variable spending, like, hey, in a month, how many times do you go and go to the movie theaters and spend money to go to the movie theaters? How many times in a month do you dine out? Sometimes the devil is in the dining out, because you spend 10 times what you could have spent just making dinner yourself. You know, hey, it's great to dine out, it's great to enjoy, but at a time when you are trying to take hold of your spending, sometimes the wise decision is putting all that luxury away and telling the kids, sorry, you know, we cannot afford that right now. We have, well, in fact, if you're talking to your kids, there's a way to do it, right? You can just tell them, oh, we are deciding to be healthy, to eat healthy. Okay, everybody is deciding to eat healthy these days. So you really don't need to tell them the real reason so they don't get sad. But anyway, you want to categorize your spending, and you want to set financial goals. So prioritize your spending to align with your financial goals. So if you have a goal to, say, buy a house, and you need $50,000 to make a down payment for the house, now you would align that with your budget, and you know that, okay, I plan to buy this house a year from now. 50,000 divided by 12, and you just do the math and begin to align your budget with that goal. So set financial goals, then simply based on the system that we earlier discussed, the zero based budgeting system, the 50/30/20 budgeting system, the envelope system, you can now create your budget plan. And as you go along in the month, or as you go along in the year, you want to keep monitoring that budget. It's not rigid. It's not. There's nothing set in stone. Sometimes in the course of the month, you even get more important expenses that you never planned for. So in that case, oh well, maybe there's one expense that needs to be dropped, and you then begin to realign and readjust your budget. So that's how you take control of your finances. I said earlier that money has legs. It just wants to go, like it exists so that it can go. That's money for you. It's it just wants to come, make you smile for 2 seconds, and just walk right away. And you're like, wait, where is all that money that I made? Have you ever asked that question? Where is all that money? Where did, where did all that money go? I'll tell you where they went. They just stood up and left because you did not budget. So these are very, very important tips. And hey, I prefer pen and paper for my budgeting. It takes maybe $12 to buy a specialized book for budgeting. And I can use this book for a very, very long time, right? You can also get apps. There are apps that are free. So most apps you'd have to pay for. But if you are trying to cut spending, hey, you probably don't want to pay for an app, right? You can just do it the old school way. There's nothing wrong with the old school way. But hey, every man to, his own style. As long as you are finding something you are comfortable with, and you are making a plan based on that which you are comfortable with, then it's okay, for you to just use any plan that you have and plan your finances. So some budgeting apps, okay, I don't want to do no advert for any business, but hey, what does it matter as long as you get the right information, right? So there's Mint. Mint is free, but they were bought over by Intuit, so you'll probably not find them on the App Store any longer. You have YNAB. You need a budget. Every dollar is an app by Dave Ramsey. You pay $17 for that every month to use every dollar. So pocket guard, good budgets, personal capital. There are some budgeting tools that you can try out for you to start creating a budget. And when it comes to savings, once one good trick to save efficiently is once you have decided how much in a month you want to save, you can just automate it. Just every month, it just gets out of your account. Every month, before you even wake up from to see what your money has done, it just gets out of your account. Oh, well, if it gets out of my account, hope I wouldn't run in trouble. No, you are not going to run in trouble because it's what you allocated that is getting out of your account. You've allocated sufficient money for other expenses that will be coming in, and that you'll be able to deal with. You've already cut your expenses, you've cut your coat according to your size. You now have a grasp of your expenses. So I wouldn't see a chance where there'll be a situation that you would not be able to take care of all the things that you need in your family, in your home, and in your life. So, hey, nice tip. Automate your savings. A lot of the investment companies, they allow you to just automate your savings, and every on the particular day of the month, the same amount it just goes into your investment portfolios. And another tip is when you see the disparity between your income and your expenses, who needs to go? Well, cut the unnecessary expenses. Cut it. It's something that is easy to do on day one of your budgeting. Yes, later you can begin to think of how you can increase your income. And hey, watch out on this channel. You'd have ample opportunity to learn how to increase your source of income. So hey, just if you've not subscribed, hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe and turn on your notifications so that when another video is pushed out, is released, you'll be the first to know about it. So you have two actions that will be very important based on your budgeting. Number one, cutting your unnecessary expenses, and number two, making sure that you begin to work at increasing your source of income. And it could be starting a business, it could be, to pay off those debts, it could actually be starting a second job. But of course, you have to manage things in a way that you would not be stressed and overworked. But for a while, it may be expedient for you to just find that second job, find the third job, so that you pay off your debt. Remember at the beginning of the talk today, I told you a point when I had lots and lots of credit card debts. And hey, because I could. I mean, now we're in the United States. Hey, this free money, it looks like free money until you begin to spend it and you see the amount of yoke that, hey, this so-called free money brings upon your life. And I had to then I was running a doctorate in engineering, for that matter, and I was receiving some stipend as a student at the time. But guess what? I began to pick up, you know, not so nice jobs just to pay off these debts. And I had destroyed the credit cards and I began to pay it off, pay them off, pay them off until I looked back one day and I discovered, hey, I was zero, zero in debts, zero, debt free, totally debt free. And I looked at my savings and I saw, whoa, even as a student at the time, $3,000 in my account. It was unbelievable. It was unprecedented. I just looked back and I had this much money. I even began to dabble into crypto at the time. And at some point, the market did great and I had tens of thousands of dollars just because I took charge of my finances. And the first step I took towards taking charge of my finances was making a budget and making sure that saving was part of my budget. So, in this talk about budgeting, there's something very important. There are some mistakes you want to avoid. And some of those mistakes, they they are little mistakes, but they actually count for something. And number one that I want to mention is that track the little expenses. Okay, yeah, I'm a Christian. I love to quote the scripture, and on this channel, I will be quoting lots of scriptures. And one scripture that I've known for a while is that Little foxes, little foxes will destroy the farmland. Let me paraphrase that way. And those little bills, you subscribe to a trial, uh, maybe 30-day trial for a certain service, and you just forgot. These companies are smart. They know you'd forget, and you really did forget to cancel the subscription. Then they will take maybe $5 out of your account every month, or $10 out of your account every month, and it looks insignificant, right? But three companies are charging you those little amounts every month. $30 in a month. Multiply by 12, it becomes significant. So you want to pay attention to these little expenses, even the ones that you think do not impact your finances as much. If it's not important, cut it off. Yes, cut it off. So make sure that you track all small expenses, because it's easy to overlook them. It's easy to say, it doesn't matter. Another kind of expenses that people tend to ignore are the irregular expenses. The expenses that don't occur every time, every month. It occurs once in a while, or when somebody comes and says, "Oh, please, I need help. Can you lend me? Can you? I need to borrow money from you, and I need money for my wedding, my child's fees, and you know they are really irregular. They don't come all the time. Nonetheless, pay attention to things. You cannot spend beyond what you have planned. That's why I usually would say it's wisdom to have, a portion for miscellaneous. Miscellaneous would help you to cater to expenses that you would never expect. Maybe just a church that needs, I mean, you have paid your regular donations to the church, and they are running a special project, and you did not know that this project was going to come along. And now, if you have a miscellaneous bucket, then from that bucket you can make that donation. So don't ignore irregular expenses, and also don't be too restrictive. So one thing why people give up easily on budgeting is because they keep themselves in a tight corner. They are so meticulous with the budgeting that it becomes too difficult for them to keep at it. So once they can't keep at it, they just say, "Oh no, I think I've overspent, and okay, yeah, I'll I'll try again next month." And next month comes, and I'll try again next month. And now they just easily forget that they had made a commitment to begin to budget. So give a little space, a little wiggle room. And I said it earlier, one way you can give yourself a little wiggle room is by having maybe 5%, maybe 10% for miscellaneous expenses. And as you go along the month, make sure to review and adjust your budget. It's very important. So, we've talked about budgeting. I don't want to stretch this longer than you know we've been at this for about 40 minutes. And hey, this is my first video, so we'll keep it a little bit short today. And again, if you are not subscribed yet, please do subscribe and watch out for more videos. They'll be very educative, and we'll talk about investments. We'll talk about financial security. We'll talk about financial planning. We'll talk about estate planning. Just everything that has to do with finances. You don't want to miss a single video. Like, you really don't. So, it's nice having you on this first session. Yeah, first session. So, it's our first time together, right? So, um, I hope you had a real nice time. If you have, comments about budgeting, suggestions about budgeting, even if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comment section. But hey, people like to be respectful, um, and we can continue the discussion in the comment section. Thank you for coming and see you on the next video. Bye.